if you watched him do the one-man show, it would have been like entertaining, but you'd be like, that guy's a little dramatic, right? Like, oh, like you literally have the AIDS crisis going on, and you're literally addressing that as to like kind of put your own like thing in perspective, as like, oh yeah, like this is just my career. I have all the time in the world to do this, even though I don't feel like I have all the time in the world to do this. Hi, welcome back, everybody, to the world's best pod. Matthew loves it to make the joke. Welcome back to Cinemen. We are finishing. This is our last podcast of 2025.
It's the last one in our first calendar year.
Yeah. So if for some reason you bought the season pass for this is the last episode. I know that nobody, as of recording, has bought that. So, but
future, or hopefully not posthumous, but future.
Yeah, but it will be this. I'm going to probably, as soon as I finish editing this, it will be available on there. So that doesn't help you because you don't know that, but
you don't know it yet.
But yeah, I'll have all of that probably by the end of the day or whatever up on there. So this will actually be like almost 2 weeks early, this episode. So
fantastic. Well, those of you that pay for the privilege, we appreciate your support.
Right. So keep that in mind as we go into the 2026 season pass, because that will be anytime we have a holiday where we're doing get-aheads like we are doing for Christmas, you're going to get an episode like 2 weeks early potentially. And I'm probably going to make it like $25 for the whole year. Maybe I'll make it $26 for 26. And that's for the whole season pass. So, yeah. So anyway, back into this week's, final episode for the year.
Which is...
I want to explain why we picked Tick, Tick, Boom. So Tick Tick,
it's in pre-production. I mean,
yeah. So when we were planning out the rest of the year, I don't know, a month and a half ago, whatever it was.
At least.
We were like, okay, well, we're obviously going to do Christmas movies. And then we were like, okay, but if we do 4 Christmas movies for the beginning of December, we don't want to do a 5th Christmas movie.
I really didn't.
Especially since we did.
I think I've had enough.
Especially since we did 3 Grinches. And so I was like, what's a New Year's movie we could watch? And I didn't want to just pick a movie just because it was New Year's. I wanted to pick a movie that was interesting to watch or good, like something that we hadn't seen or whatever. And when I pulled up New Year's movies, I think there is literally a movie called New Year's. But we like
probably about a dozen made-for-TV Hallmark movies.
Yeah. Right. And I was like, I don't want to do any of those. But the one that came up was this movie. And as we both watched this in the last 3 days or so, this isn't a New Year's movie. I'm not disappointed.
I don't even think it's like winter time necessarily.
It was January. The whole movie does take place in January. Because he says it's like 8 days from my 30th birthday. And at the end, we see that his 30th birthday is February 4th.
February 4th, yeah.
So
in New York, it's like winter-ish. I mean, it's pretty freaking cold. How about that? There we go.
Yeah, and to be fair, January, I feel like there are people who throughout January will still wish you a Happy New Year's. Like, I feel like it's almost like the way Happy Holidays leads up to Christmas for the whole month. Happy New Year follows New Year's Day for the whole month almost. So, like...
Yeah.
I definitely know that there's some people who do it for a while. You're like, okay, that was 3 weeks ago.
Right. New Year's Day, Happy New Year's, that greeting is definitely the obnoxious friend who does the birthday all month of holidays.
Yeah.
So it's very much like Happy New Year's, like they want to make sure to tell you because they want to get that little in, like, it's my birthday in 3 weeks, and then it was my birthday a week ago. Like,
I think Christmas is more like that than New Year's. And I think New Year's, like, it is still it's not New Year's Day, but it is the beginning of the year. And they're like, I hope you have a great year. You know, it's January 12th.
Yeah.
And like, Like
Thank you,
it's
Gregorian calendar, that we even have this specific number of a day. Look, guys,
yeah.
stay away from the gym. Just drink enough champagne to fall asleep. And if you don't want to spend the money on champagne, cava. Just as tasty, a lot less expensive. Well, close enough tasty. But enough about my time I spent in New York in the restaurant industry. Let's talk about Jonathan Larson, Tick Tick Boom, and his experience in New York.
Yeah. All right. So, well, let's dive into who Jonathan Larson is.
That's a good start, yeah.
So if you're not familiar with Tick Tick Boom as a Broadway play, musical, you're probably more familiar with Rent. So Jonathan Larson was a musical writer, and I don't know. I know that like a lot of musicals, there is the person who writes the music and the person who writes the book. Um, you know what I'm saying, like with that. So like the person who writes kind
Yeah.
of the script, and then the person
They
who writes
don't
the.
always perform their own shit.
No. That's not what I mean. Like,
You mean they write the
mo-
music and the play itself, like the playwright? It's less Andrew Lloyd Webber and more Jonathan Larson, where he does music and the speaking parts. Is that what you're more
yeah.
thinking? Yeah,
There's writing duties are often split up. So I don't know
true.
if we were to go look at like Rent's, like if he gets book credit and music credit. I know very clearly from this movie he does the music. I don't know about the book credits. I'm not that familiar with Broadway to know all of that. So let's just get that out for a second. He is a writer of musicals, and to whatever level that is. And he wrote 3 musicals in his life.
Hmm.
This one being the first one he kind of performed. It was more of a one-man show during his lifetime.
Yeah,
Um, and it was
and it
about
did the off Broadway circuit for a while. Yeah.
right. And it was about the rejection of his first musical. Like people, we see the process of him getting to show his musical in like an they're almost auditioning it for investors essentially.
Hmm.
With
This is very much what that is. Yeah.
people are sitting in chairs with the music in front of them. Like there's 10 people, and then
Hmm.
there's an audience of about 40 people. So like that.
Yep.
So it's this process of trying to get this musical made, and it gets rejected because not because they don't believe that it's a good musical or good music, but because there is a level of how producible is this as a concept.
Yeah,
Um,
and my short time in New York, working in the restaurant industry, I obviously rubbed elbows with a lot of people who were off Broadway and Broadway actors and dancers.
yeah,
And in a lot of this situation, just like Jonathan Larson, they worked in the food service industry.
yeah,
And this kind of process, it is like a half read through,
hmm
but you rehearse for it, you hire people for it. You
yeah,
might not necessarily hire all of the actors or singers that you got to do the read
right,
in the actual production. And different from the writing industry, which you're in, just so recently. Uh, what's the best way to explain this? They don't always get it ahead of time.
yeah,
So sometimes they'll choose to send out the manuscripts and the music, the sheet music, and sometimes they won't, depending on who's the writer, to try to drum up interest in it, which is actually one of the scenes is him trying to get people to come to this reading,
yeah,
to come to this audition. So it's very much about that. And Tick Tick Boom, although is the name of this movie, it's also the name of his second one man show that's about his writing of Superbia,
yeah,
which was his first.
yeah. And so, yeah, and he like we said, he did it as a one man show. Then he went on to make Rent. He wrote, and I don't know what his production, what his level of connection was with the production of it, but the writer is involved there. He actually died the morning of either opening or first look. Don't they do like a first looks, like where it's not like it's like it's not a grand opening, but it's a whatever. He died the morning of that, so he like
Yeah.
literally. And Sarah and Logan and I were talking about it before watching the movie, and it was like, because Logan doesn't know what Rent is, right? And I'm like Rent, like every decade has a big Broadway hit. Like this decade, last decade was Hamilton, and then before that was Wicked, and before that was Rent. Rent was the musical of the '90s. Like
it was.
That was, and I'm like, and this guy struggled to get something done. Wrote the musical of the '90s and died the morning before he got to see even the beginning
he didn't even get
success.
to see his own work performed. And this is something, I checked the credits, for Rent itself, the Broadway book, music, and lyrics are credited specifically and only to Jonathan Larson.
Okay.
There was additional writing done by Billy Aronson. Additional like lyrics. So the additional lyrics were more because this was posthumous work for him. So in this scenario, it's more filling in the blanks than it is writing alongside of like a parallel.
Wait, for Rent or for Tick Tick Boom? Sorry,
for Rent specifically. So he doesn't even get to see his own work.
Right. So following the success of Rent and knowing that he's gone, some of his friends and family worked with a Broadway producer to take his one-man show that he had done, one of Tick Tick Boom, and make it into, I think it was originally a 3-person production from what I read, of Tick Tick Boom on probably off Broadway then Broadway.
Off Broadway, yeah.
I saw Tick Tick Boom. Someone got me tickets for my 18th birthday.
Nice.
In Boston, so I had seen it. I didn't remember much about it, and I don't. So I've seen Rent the movie once. I've never seen it as a play, but I've seen the movie once, which I know a lot of people say the movie's not that great compared to the play.
Rosario Dawson's the best part about it but that's because I wanted to sit on my face. So that's an entirely separate reason why I like watching it.
Right.
I've seen Rent on stage. I've seen Tick Tick Boom on stage. Yeah. And I've seen other people perform Superbia, but it was more like an homage thing. It wasn't like the official group of actors or anything. So I've seen everything that this references. When Rent was popular, obviously I was a theater nerd, so I went back and found all the Larson stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was familiar with his story more than I was familiar with the story in Tick Tick Boom, despite having seen it, and the story in Rent. And I also feel like there's been enough parodies of Rent that I'm unfortunate. I think about Team America at the beginning when it's everyone has AIDS, like the musical that the characters doing. The
characters and even Rent in itself is even a modernization of La Boheme.
Yeah.
Which is the Puccini opera. So, and Larson specifically speaks that La Boheme was some of an inspiration for him. Yeah. So, the idea that this type of story is joked on, like you said, parodied by things that are clearly satire or comedy, I think it speaks to the lasting power of this as a work.
For sure, but unfortunately it blends in my head where I can't remember. I remember watching Rent the movie after I had seen or heard so much about the AIDS thing and being like, I don't feel like AIDS is all this movie's about, whereas everything made it sound like that's what it's all about.
Well, because you and I grew up in the Northeast, and obviously anything music, LA and New York, it moves to the center of the country. Theater is in New York and then blends out into the rest of the country. Yeah. So I remember the politics of Rent being the reason that Bushnell Theater, which is where I originally saw it, Bushnell Theater, third of it cleared out because all of the more conservative or more traditional theater fans who were season ticket holders just cleared out. They just literally got up and walked out because of what it was talking about. And now we can speak about AIDS. I'm not trying to minimize it like it's the cold, because it's not that it's not that taboo anymore.
Right.
Like, we're aware of how it happens, the treatment, the most affected groups. Like, none of this is unknown. Whereas when he was in New York after he moved away from White Plains, and also all of his friends and all of his roommates, compatriots that are in this film itself,
yeah,
it is more taboo. It is more don't talk about it. So I did note that in my pre-production is like, this feels, as a filmmaker, is period piece a good way to talk about this, or not yet?
I think that
of a time.
I think that, like, no, because, like, I think, like, when you say period piece, you mean a specific thing, a specific time.
Yes, so I usually mean like colonial England or Elizabethan time.
No, but I mean, like, as opposed to something where you're like, that's generically in the, like 80s or not, like this takes place, like, like when there's something that's a little more amorphous, and like think about something where you're like, oh yeah, based on their clothes and the cars, they're sometime between 75 and 95, right? 1975 and 1995. That's like less of what I consider a period piece. This is specifically 1990. Like, we know the month and year that this takes place.
It is specific, but when I say period piece, I mean it's not set in that time because it had to be. It's set in that time because it serves the film. It serves the narrative purpose. That's more what I mean, because we were speaking about the AIDS part. Is period piece too heavy or too specific for this?
I don't think so. I think that the fact that, like, I think it had to be then. So the reason I think that...
So you were right about that.
The reason I think that, like, it needs to be exactly in the time it's in is, like, for the most part, Jonathan's struggle throughout the movie is getting this play made. And the reason...
it's the movie in the movie.
Right. The reason it needs to be this time period, though, is because we juxtapose his personal goal against the horrors that his friends are dealing with. And so he is like, I am an artist, and I'm not getting, and I 100% connected with this, where it's like, I want to get my art out there.
I saw you connected with him so many times. I was like, oh shit, it's Mike.
Yeah, and
he won't sell out, even if
Right. But even like, especially that speech when he gets into this dialogue with his best friend, and he's like, you don't understand. This is everything to me. And he's like, you don't understand. Like, we have friends that are dying. I am a gay man. I have like, I can't get married right now. I won't be able to have children, most likely. Yeah. And I'm worried that I'm next. And like, so it's like you're dealing, and not to say that, like,
speaking
Jonathan
of him being next,
right? Well, and he knew that when he said that, like, right?
He did. Jonathan didn't, and that
right.
I will admit that's the part of the movie that fucking killed me. Anyway,
yeah. So he's so that's, like, I think why it needs to take place at this time, because our careers and our ambitions in life aren't unimportant, but sometimes they just don't hold up to other shit, right? And so, like, if you're like, there are certain things where you're like, yeah, I get that you want to do this thing, but like, we're dealing with the AIDS crisis, and so, like, yeah, I'm trying to be a good friend to you, but also, like, I'm a gay man living through the AIDS crisis. And so you have to, like, deal with that side of things. And so, like, it puts a perspective on it. I don't think it says that Jonathan Larson's dream wasn't important, or that Jonathan Larson was selfish overall. I think it's just, like, you need the perspective of he's acting like it's everything, because because that's how people act that way. Like, if you put this 10 years ahead of time, 1980, pre-AIDS, there is nothing that is as important. What do you, like, the Iran hostage crisis? Like,
yeah,
what?
No.
Like, there is nothing that holds that.
There's nothing that hit the U.S. like that.
Right. We're out of Vietnam. We're, like, there's no, so you put it 10 years later, and the AIDS crisis is no longer what it was.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that it had to be specifically then. I also think that, like, hey, it really happened then. Like, right? It is his 30th, his 30th birthday. Like, the time that there is a significance in that side of things. But I also think his 30th birthday lines up with, at that point in the AIDS crisis, we're at it. Like, we know in 2025 that they're at a precipice
Yeah.
of like,
The audience knows what's about to hit.
Right.
And
the
it's
audience
just, we're all kind of like,
but also,
first, you know?
But also, the world has known about AIDS for 9 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But there is still a little bit of, this is for gay people and intravenous drug users. There's a clip that says that. There's still a little bit of, like, I think they've started to figure out that there's blood transfusion problems and blood, and they've started to figure out some of that side of things. Mm-hmm. But they're still stigmatized as being for gay people and drug addicts. And so there's that side of things.
And when the news was playing in the background, which is what you're referencing, yeah. I remember hearing that and just like, I felt this sense of, like, annoyance or of course you're saying, but there was definitely the politicizing of the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah.
And it was easy to take something so damaging, so detrimental to, yes, a specific group, but moreover, find the scapegoat.
Yeah.
And Robin DeJesus, who plays Michael, who is the person that tells Jonathan that I'm positive during his monologue.
Yeah.
It was
no in a later monologue. He does.
Later monologue. Yeah. So he is that character that has the biggest effect. And you're right. He knew for a while and just didn't. He loved and cared for Jonathan enough that he didn't get in the way of his production, because he knew how much this mattered. No matter how much he had gone to the corporate world, no matter how much he had gone into advertising, all the money and all the things that having a bunch of money brings, he was still, this is not about me.
The other reason why I think it's important that we're in 1990 is when you put yourself in Michael's perspective. An HIV diagnosis in 1990 is essentially, as far as you know, is a death sentence. Now, I don't know when it stopped becoming a death sentence. The reason I say as far as you know is Magic Johnson comes out with his diagnosis within the next year, roughly.
That's
and we're now 35 years down the line, and Magic Johnson's alive. So, like, I don't know, but part of that is because he's rich. I mean, like, he was able to afford the best medicines the whole way through. Like, I don't mean that diminishingly. I mean that
in a factual sense. That's why he's still alive.
Now if you diagnosed with HIV, you can probably get good medication without being rich. But, like, in 1991, to get the best medication to make sure. So I don't know when it stopped becoming a death sentence for the average person who got it. That's why I say that. And I explained that to Sarah and Logan while we were watching it, and it was funny. Logan knows what AIDS is, but he didn't know what HIV was, and I'm like, it's the virus that causes AIDS. I'm like, but I feel like there's more to it to explain than that, but I don't know more than that to explain. And I also want to say, like, really quickly, because I don't want to get away from Michael too bad, but Michael's based on Jonathan Larson's real friend, who there isn't a whole lot of information. I would guess that it could be like a what do you call it? When they squeeze a bunch of people into one character, like you know what I mean?
So meta character, kind of.
Yeah. So, like, Michael is based on his best friend, but I don't know how much, if it's 100% or what. But Michael's best friend is still alive. And when I Googled him, the guy that character is based on is still alive. When I Googled him, it said he never contracted AIDS, and I'm like, yes, but you can have HIV and not AIDS
Yeah, true.
because so like I don't know if that's a word game that they're playing, or or in Logan, when I told them, I was like, oh, I wanted to give Sarah and Logan this little bit of like good news at the end of it, and Logan goes, that's kind of fucked up that he would write his best friend as having HIV, and I'm like, well, he may have had
No,
HIV.
I like that. I like that.
He's also the basis for the character of Angel in Rent. So, but so anyway, so that's like the heavy legacy of this movie is not only does Jonathan Larson die, which that's another thing where it's like when we talk about like Jonathan Larson's like ambition, and he didn't know he was going to go home and die at 35 years old, almost 36 years old. So like, when he's talking to Michael, like that's almost the irony of it, is that the character of Michael ends up outliving him, but you don't know that because at the time, because you got a death sentence and I am just a guy who like has ambitions, and then it's like, I'm going to be the one that dies first and you're going to make it 35 years from now.
So
like,
yes, and we were, I think it was 2 episodes ago, we were talking about musical adaptations for film, and we were also kind of talking about famous people we know that have that doco film made about them. Tick, Tick, Boom, this movie for me felt way less, I'm watching a documentary movie about Jonathan Larson, because it didn't have a whole third of the movie or the last quarter of the movie about him after he died. Like, it's very much, he passes away and scene. Like, there's not
30
that much
seconds
after
of like 30 seconds of like the clips of him, the way that you would play them, like like the little blurb that would pop up like in a freeze frame. Like that's essentially what they do with it.
And that was respectful to the film and its intent. It was respectful to the estate and the legacy of Jonathan Larson. I appreciated it because I was waiting for that to happen. I was waiting for that last quarter of the film to be them all crying in the apartment and being sad that he's died, or going into his misdiagnosis that a lot of people feel is the reason he died. So just like none of that took place, and it felt so much more genuine that I'm watching an entertainment film about him and his life, and celebrating it for his mark on theater, not as much I'm watching just a very well produced 60-minute documentary about this dude. Because I don't like watching those movies. I don't.
But I also think that like part of that is because he was alive when he wrote it. He wrote it. So like think about like any other one-man show. Like Mike Birbiglia does all these one-man shows, or Billy Crystal did a couple. Didn't he do Mr. Saturday Night as a one-man show? Originally. Like you think about those and you're like, well, this isn't a biopic. This is like here's a period of my life that decided to write an artistic representation of for you. And that's what Jonathan Larson did. And then it was given the perspective afterwards of, well, this guy died. Let's bring it back. Let's make it a little more of a thing. And like, but let's not let's adapt it so that it doesn't have to be Jonathan playing himself, obviously. And we'll adapt that a little bit, but let's not change the story. And then we'll just kind of recognize at the beginning and end for a moment at the beginning, a moment at the end. Like, because you can't address the elephant not in the room. You have to address the elephant in the room. That wasn't there when he did it as a one-man show. Like when she says at the very beginning, like before the tickets were sold and the Pulitzer Prize and all the other things that he ended up winning posthumously, before all of that, it was just Jonathan, or whatever she says at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then at the end to be like, and we lost our friend, the day before at the end. So like it literally is like, hey, here's what he wrote, and we're just gonna tack on like you expect us to like address it so that you know that you're not gonna see Rent in this, and then at the end we need to say, and obviously the reason why we're all here is because of Rent.
Yeah.
you know.
The way that was handled was one of the reasons that I liked this film so much, is because it wasn't this heavy-handed, sad, happy boy genius biopic, which admittedly, if I want to see that, I don't want to be entertained. I want to be informed. So I go to real documentaries for that. The doco film that's not informative, I have zero interest in, because I don't want to be entertained, because I think too much, because I usually think, and I was afraid of that production wise in my notes, I was afraid that this film would try to entertain me, and as soon as that happens while trying to be a documentary film, I don't trust what I'm watching. And most often I'm trying to find out what was correct and what did they get right and what wasn't real in blank movie. And that's immediately my next search, because, again, I want informative or I want to be entertained. One of my favorite movies is The Godfather. One of my other favorite movies is Star Wars. Neither of those are realistically a reality biopic. I don't love The Doors because it's about Jim Morrison. I like The Doors because Val Kilmer does such a great Jim Morrison. And I'm a big movie, and I'm a big Doors fan. So I really think Susan, Michael, and Caressa support the whole production of the film without being out of time and place. That's the way I like it. It was not, you're right, it had to be that time because of his passing, but also it serves the narrative so well in not trying to modernize it like 10 Things I Hate About You did to Taming of the Shrew.
Right.
Even though Rent did that to La Boheme.
As far as what I think this movie got right, I think that, so one of the things that, you know, I'm a pretty big musical fan, and I think that when you look at certain kinds of musicals, they make more sense to as an adaptation to a movie than others.
Yeah.
And when you look at, meaning more like natural, right? And without that much adjustment. So like, look at Wicked. Wicked, you're able to just like explode the scope. But like, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, so you can add these exteriors, you can add these things you couldn't add on stage. So it works so naturally. Chicago is so stylized of a play, and to make that movie kind of a throwback to that time, in the movies with the neon sign in front of like a void, you know, and like all that kind of like that structure. When you talk about something like this show or Rent or what's the one with the kid in the Dear Evan Hansen, which I didn't see the movie, but
I didn't either.
When you talk about those ones where it's like this takes place in a pretty specific small world that works on stage really well because you don't need much.
Yeah.
There can be a tendency, and like I said, I haven't seen Dear Evan Hansen, but there can be a tendency that we just adapt exactly, or we just kind of like, okay, well, this takes place in
we
a
were
school,
talking about that
in
in
a
the
house,
Grinch.
an apartment, and
we were talking about that in the Grinch. Yeah.
And whereas I think this movie did a great job of adapting for, like, it felt like a musical in the real world, and it did not feel like a bottle episode of something either. So we are in the apartment.
I agree with that.
We are in the office, and I don't remember what the structure of the stage performance was. I would imagine that a lot of that is added. Now, the diner probably really existed because there's so many go backs to the diner.
It does really exist. It was.
I mean, in
real.
the play. Like, I remember they probably built that set, right? There probably was a diner set or of some kind, at least,
or at least the inside of it.
But like, in order, and I think that there's a visual representation during that song in the diner, the Sunday brunch song, where the diner's fourth wall literally opens up and we go into New York City.
I was about to tell you those moments where the filmmakers made it a film and not a direct one-to-one, like, this is Rent, on screen is what kept me. So you remember the diner, literal fourth wall breaking, moving out into, and him directing, by the way, a bunch of cameos, him directing them as a conductor. My other big one, when he goes to swim.
The swimming, yes. The swimming was amazing.
And the tiles turn into the music staff. I was just, what? Like, I was like, honey. I like tapped my wife and rewound it. I'm like, and look at this overhead shot. And it's just, stuff
when
like
you
that.
Adapt,
editing-wise made me appreciate it as a film.
When you adapt a stage play of whether it's a musical or a play, you need to make it cinematic. And sometimes they don't. The director is, especially you got Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is a theater guy, who is he literally said with Hamilton, like, I don't want to make a Hamilton film. Let's just film the production on stage because I think that's the way it should be seen. It would have been so easy for him to just be like, all right, we're going to keep it in the apartment. We're going to in the diner. We're not going to see the outside world. We're not going to do much creative, interesting stuff with the new medium. And they didn't do that. They did a great job. Like the pool scene is amazing. And that's what
gave this staying power. That's what gave this such good praise because it was cinematic. And you're right. Miranda usually, as a purist, wants to film it like you said with Hamilton. Let's just film us doing Hamilton, but with good quality cameras. So this is not that. This is truly a film without going let's 1-to-1, which honestly would have been boring almost.
Yes,
almost
exactly.
Boring. Yeah,
I'm trying to think of examples of I think maybe it's more common with like straight plays, not musicals, where you get like, like look at Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah, that was the one I was trying to think of. Yeah,
I don't dislike that as a movie, but like that was a play, and then and I think wasn't it actually David Mamet who directed it too?
I think it was,
the movie. And so like you have a guy directing a movie version of his own play. And, he did add a little bit script-wise to make it work more for the movie, but like
Foley directed it, but he did story and screenplay. Mamet.
Oh, okay. But you're in this place of like, it's a bottle episode, like because the play works as a bottle episode, but then it just feels like you're watching a filmed play. And I think that you take same time frame, I think a year or two earlier or later, A Few Good Men. This was a Broadway hit, or off Broadway. I don't know how they work with the non-musicals, and it would have been easy to say, oh yeah, let's just do that. Like it's a courtroom drama play, and it's like, no, we go see Guantanamo Bay, and we go see him out at the baseball field, and it's not just his apartment where he's prepping with the team and the courtroom. It's all these other things we expand out in a way that does not change the meat of the story. It doesn't change any of that. It just kind of says like, all right, we are not on a stage. We are in the real world. And this movie did that. And
it let the more light-handed things that drive panic. It let the more delicate things that added the emotional montages. It let those breathe without, I grew up around a bunch of theater nerds. I grew up in a theater household. The idea that you can enjoy something because you know every beat that's about to come up is why those direct 1-to-1s hit real hard and then die. Because they're never like you're mentioning, the directors and the writers, they never get their own accolades because they just produced someone else's shit. This Miranda put a flavor on this that was somewhat unlike what he normally would want to do, which is literally let's film us doing Hamilton. But so many of the transitions from the real life stage, from the stage that this was performed on, to the lens, like that arc happened naturally in an artistic and cinematic way.
Oh yeah.
With with the panning around the characters as they were performing, it didn't feel like I was watching a music video. It felt like I was in first person view, watching John Larson play the piano, watching those two do the musical number together. Like I could see that. And theater nerds who are purists, they just want to see the whole thing front to back on a TV screen. Mm-hmm. And that's what this did not try to bring. Yeah. And I appreciated the editing for that.
Well, I think plays more so than like books. Plays, whether they're musicals or non-musicals, have this weird, book adaptations obviously have this too, but it's different, which is like, we need to appease the fans of the original while bringing in the new. And if you just make a 1-to-1 adaptation of a musical or a play, new fans aren't really coming, because they're like that. They can feel it. They maybe not able to describe that feeling, but they can feel it.
I already know what's going to happen, and I didn't like it. Why am I going to like this?
And I feel like that can be true with book adaptations, but like with book adaptations, you have a little bit, people interpret differently, and like, oh, I didn't picture that person being that or whatever. Yeah. Whereas plays, like, you're like, no, that's a play, and I've seen. So you, in order to do that, you have to adapt it. You have to say like, okay, how do I make audiences that already love this property be like, oh yeah, that was a good job of it, while also bringing in the new people who are like, that was pretty cool. I kind of want to go see the stage version of that if that ever comes, or like,
true. My other editing take is the cameos really only made. Okay, the cameos only had people go, huh? If you knew who these people were. And what I mean by that is Cheetah Rivera, Bernadette Peters, Joel Grey.
I didn't notice Joel Grey.
Yeah, Andre DeShields. Like what's the best way to explain?
You're missing the two that I noticed first, which is Angelica and Eliza from Hamilton.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those were the two at the bar, at the countertop.
They were. So like it's delicate cameos where Miranda could have gotten any darn person they wanted, literally any. And people would have been pleased to be in this. They were purposeful cameos, like you said, people from Hamilton, or folks that are more specific to the production or to Rent or to the Jonathan Larson like sphere. That's where I liked that they didn't try to pull someone out and go, oh look, it's Julia Louis-Dreyfus, or look, it didn't completely shock an audience and feel cheap.
Yeah. I also think that the placement of they're all in that one scene together, it is a very specific reason, because it is the part where he's frustrated with Sunday Brunch, and he's like, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be on Broadway with Broadway people. So he's surrounded by Broadway people. And it also like is the scene where it's one of the two scenes where we see like a real break in reality, but that's imagination reality, right? It's never like, it's not like, oh, it's the wall falls down and they're all singing on the like it is a
on a lit up stage, like literally a lit up stage.
It becomes a stage meta, and it's like, that I think was the perfect place. Let's pack all these in together. We have all these and it works together. And also by having 7 of them in one scene, you're not looking all throughout the movie like, oh yeah, like this person makes sense here, but like,
no, good call.
You're like, okay, we got all the cameos out in one spot, and
and I appreciated how even Bradley Whitford playing Sondheim, even that was never like, let's just put this dude on such a precipice. Obviously, he's not a major character in this movie necessarily. He's a major character in John Larson's story.
Yeah.
But like, the cameos was such a big line producer or director, and the kind of people that that this film would have access to, regardless of the director. It was all so intentional, and how you just pointed that out, the fact that they were all in that specific scene, making a very specific point, if you, again, recognize who they are, but also it's not that cameo that if you don't know, you're not in the know. So, for example,
Right.
it's not like, oh, yeah, that's the actor that Lin-Manuel Miranda first worked with when he did Hamilton. And it doesn't have the 9 degrees of separation that only the in crowd would know, to the point that I didn't recognize some of them in that scene, and it didn't detract from it. I didn't care. It was still a good scene. Do you think there's any nitpicks in editing? Because I have a couple.
I did not have a moment that I did not like in this movie.
So I don't have a moment I didn't like. I have a section that, and I've talked about this before on this podcast.
I got one thing. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I've talked about on this podcast before. If I can guess, I'm bored. I guessed Susan, his girlfriend's entire story arc from second act-ish. Like the first third, I was like, she's going to get a big job offer. She's going to leave him. It's going to be the main point of conflict. I can't wait. Like, it was.
I don't think it was the main point of conflict. I think it was
Jonathan Larson's main niggle. Okay, it wasn't a main niggle. It was his big relationship arc, but it's not what this movie is about. And oftentimes, these films, either the creative mind is the reclusive genius, and they're kind of a butt, or the reclusive mind is hyper famous, hyper recognizable, and just an absolute juggernaut in their field. And that goes the same for sports films as well, and art films, where you have like the athlete that is the star. So her role was never bad. I actually liked the way it was played, genuinely liked the way it was played. My nitpick on editing is her arc could have been like, I get it. So taking some poetic license on her relationship to John Larson and making it a little less obvious, or maybe John goes and visits her in the Berkshires, or just adding some kind of thing that makes her arc not so obvious, was literally my only niggle to this. Like, I really didn't have anything that bugged me, just like you.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I think that, like, I get that it's fairly stereotypical, but I think that
it's like the only stereotypical thing in the entire film.
It's tough because we're in a 7 to 8 day window, essentially. This movie, I know. It takes place in such a short period of time, which I also thought, like, makes her a little bit more obnoxious in that way of, like, I need here's a thing that's going to happen and I need an answer. And it's like, you gave him like the busiest 7 days of his life to do it, which is almost certainly didn't happen in real life that way.
Well, but it adds to that tension. It adds to all of, an editing win here. The constant panic and looming dread of him having to write that last song. That, by the way, started with "your," apparently, because that's all he ever typed. Like that looming dread was always so light-handed. It wasn't, he looks at a clock and it ticks. Like, it was never very overt and obvious. It was always delicate. So his girlfriend, played by Alexandra Shipp, it was always so...
She's amazing in everything, by the way.
She's fantastic. And just about everything I've seen her in, she's fantastic, but I haven't tried to find something she wasn't. So, like, it was always so careful when she would ask him. It was not the whole scene. The scene that killed me, and I mentioned this in the top of the episode, was when Michael tells him in his office that he's positive. I immediately paused and I looked at the time code and I'm like, there's only half an hour left. What the fuck are you going to do in the last half an hour of this when we know he's going to die? Now he doesn't, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, you have a half an hour left. What are you doing? I know Jonathan Larson dies, and now we know he's gonna die. And then and that's actually when that moment is when I panicked and thought, oh shit, is the last quarter of this film gonna be the two people that passed away and what happened after their lives and the whole group of friends crying in the apartment or out front of it? Like
Yeah.
I didn't want that, and I didn't get that. I am so pleased. But the editing, like the brave, the bravado to put that with only a half an hour left and have it just be like, now deal with it. That was I liked that.
I think that okay, with her kind of pushing and with the Michael situation and everything else going and his 30th birthday looming,
Right, his
it's
30th
really
birthday,
I mean, it would be easy to look at this and be like, oh, this was written before or written after he died and see that as all but like the fact that he wrote it in his lifetime, not knowing, like, it wasn't like he was diagnosed with some terminal illness, right? He didn't know he was going to die at 36. He could have, as far as he knew, he was going to make it to be, like Stephen Sondheim did, which, by the way, Stephen Sondheim died 1 week to the day after this movie came out. And he was a consultant on it. But he was like,
oh no,
Stephen Sondheim would be like 100 almost, I think.
Fair.
Like, so, like, not the same thing, but like, you look at, like, how prescient it was. Like, he's like, I'm running out of time. I'm going to be 30 30 means I'm no longer a kid. It means I'm no longer young to be doing this. I'm no longer, and then he's like, around him. He's
like how Michael's
my friends.
Like, you're not Sondheim. I like how Michael just says to him, you're not him,
Yeah. Sondheim would be 95 right now. So he was 91 when he died. So it's not like the worst thing in the world, but so, you have the constant sense of time ticking away, which if you watched him do the one-man show, it would have been like entertaining, but you'd be like, that guy's a little dramatic, right? Like, oh, like you literally have the AIDS crisis going on and you're literally addressing that as to like kind of put your own like thing in perspective, as like, oh yeah, like this is just my career. I have all the time in the world to do this, even though I don't feel like I have all the time in the world to do this. And then there's the girlfriend who is like, you got 7 days or 8 days or whatever it is till I move away. And I'm hoping you're going to come with me.
Yeah, to pick what do you want. Yeah.
And so you have like all these things pushing on that time. And the idea that was all written without him knowing that he was going to die within 5 years of that being written. At, like like I said to, again, to put it into perspective for Logan, I'm like, he died. He didn't make it to as old as Sarah's 4 years younger than me. I'm like, he wasn't as old as Mummy is when he died. Like he was young, like, and he didn't know any of that. And yet he had this sense of, and so it's one of those things where I think that it wouldn't have stuck with me watching this on, off Broadway in 1991 if I was an adult, obviously not as a 7-year-old in 1991, but if I watched it in 1991 as an adult, and I'd be like, that was entertaining, but that guy is like kind of like whining about his problems while his friends are dying, and his girlfriend is like, I can't afford to survive here, like, and like everybody else's problems in that perspective seems so big compared to his. And then with the re-releasing it in 2001 as a off Broadway thing, and like and now as a movie 35 years after the events take place, it has this newfound like prescience and like, oh, like no, we all could be that way, like, like I think that way a lot about, like, I'm 40, like or I'm 41 now, who has directed their first feature film at 40 that makes any kind of splash? Who, you know what I mean? Like, who has written their first book at, and makes any kind of splash in that industry? I think those ways. And it's like, I feel like I'm running out of time. And it's like, but my grandfather's 91. I have family members that are almost that I have a family member that will be 100 this summer. And there's a good amount of people that have lived a
Yeah.
long life. I have both parents alive in
Yeah, good point.
so I have no like I don't have any grandparents who died younger than I am now. I don't have any parents that died younger than I am now, or have already died at this point. Like, I have all these reasons to believe I'm going to live forever, but you don't know that you're not going to have like an aortic aneurysm, or you're not going to get hit by a bus, or you don't know. And I think that, so like, I think there is like this sense of, if you saw this before he died, it would seem trite almost. And knowing that he
It would
kind
seem
of was
too
right
self-aggrandizing.
is like, exactly. And I think that is like a really interesting accident that happened about this written piece. I did think of a thing that I actually think was not a nitpick that I did actually have, which is the few moments where it was green screened, it was not well green screened.
It was a little
Like
rough.
when Michael and the scenes were fine, but like the driving, when they're driving in the car, you're like, the exposure doesn't feel right, and there's a couple of moments where it was like that. That's a super duper nitpick, and like ultimately, that again, that's a nitpick that if you had filmed this exact movie as is with that particular problem 30 years ago, I'd be like, oh, that's nothing. But because green screen should be so much better now, and like, I was just like, oh yeah, this is not good green screen, but
fair. So I'm ready.
But it was also came out during COVID, so.
For me, and I've touched on it already, this is one of the best creative ambition films that's an artist pain story, because it refused to make ambition purely this noble pursuit or purely toxic and just evil. It balanced
it was realistic.
His friends. You're right. It balanced his friends. It balanced his genius. It made Jonathan Larson a human, a very talented human, but it made him real. And compared to other sports and creative films like this, it was unusually tender to everyone around the protagonist without ever being he drops everything to help Michael, or he abandons his opus and then goes and works on it in solitude in the Berkshires with Susan. Like, it never was that. It's always he had his goal, but he didn't ignore, and for that matter, nor did his friends ignore, his noble pursuit. In other words, Susan shows up to the diner when he's celebrating. Michael shows up to his read, and
the day after their fight. Yeah.
The day after, they literally have what in most movies takes, in movie time, 20 minutes or a day to like move past, right?
Yeah.
So,
and there has to be some kind of like either what do you call it? Like there has to be something to bring them back together, not just like, I said I was going to be there and I'm going to be there. We got to fight, or you're my, like, that's one of those things
horses,
where I think,
Jonathan, was, I think, the line. Wild horses.
Okay. Well, one of the things I think that, like, when you write, sometimes it's easier to write to what I would consider like an emotional immaturity in conflict, because it's an easier sell to an audience. It's quicker, it's faster to be like, we got in a fight, now we have to have some big gesture to fix the fight. And it's like, sometimes like it's kind of, I think most of us in our first relationships or whatever, you get into a fight and you're like, okay, I guess we broke up, and you're like, no, that was a fight. Like, that's not how that works. Like,
right.
We're not,
you have maturity to understand that when you have a genuine connection, that doesn't end it.
Yeah. Right. And this movie handled it that way, which is like the opposite of like movie shorthand.
It's
And I
true.
think that worked really well
Well,
because I
and the
think it
movie
would have been
shorthand,
easier for him to be like, it would have been easier for them to have added in a scene or where Jonathan has to be like, "Hey, you're right. I was really, he has to go like," which he should apologize. Like, I'm not saying apologies are bad or immature. I'm saying like we don't need to like necessarily like show that to be like, "Hey, we both had a lot on our chest that we said."
and that was another moment of understanding I have. This is a higher level film. Is that I didn't need to be spoon fed those things. I
Yeah.
didn't see Michael show up to his read, and I didn't say, "Why the hell are you here? Y'all just had a fight." Ugh. Rude. Like, I
Yeah.
know, like you just mentioned, I know the two of them either had that conversation and there's no need to play that up to the audience, or
Yep.
they don't need to have it because they have a
Yeah.
genuine connection enough that they can have a disagreement. They can even see different on an issue, but because they're genuine friends, they're still going to talk to each other and we're still going to support each other's work. So
Yeah.
there were so many times, and that was one of them, where it was mature as a work, as a film, but it also handled these late 20 somethings as mature adults who had a good grasp of interpersonal relationships. And it was never heavy handed where I have to see, like you just mentioned, I have to see them make up. Like, I don't need to
Yeah.
see that. Them making up is about as obvious as Susan's arc. I knew it was going to happen. I expected it took place. We're good, and
Yeah. Exactly.
and that's why for me this film just sits as one of those best creative ambition films compared to other like artist pain, artist frustration stories.
Yeah.
It sat there and it was given time to be cinematic.
Right. I think that this movie has a good. It is already like, I heard someone say like, oh, like it's really interesting to see what Lin Manuel Miranda did with somebody else's musical. Like I've heard people talk about it. It
Ah,
has so it is like it does get some buzz. It does have it got an Academy Award nomination for Andrew Garfield,
hmm,
which he's amazing. I didn't go and see what beat him, although I could go look. But he was amazing in this. But he but like I think that like it's not like when you think about musical movies that have come out in the last 5 years, I don't think your average audience is talking about it, which I hope changes. I like
I
like I like musicals, but like I get Wicked is just a different level, right? But like we had Mean
yeah,
Girls come
true.
out recently, and I haven't seen Mean Girls, and I have such a huge crush on the girl that plays um Regina George in the new
Regina
one.
George, yeah.
Um, I haven't seen it though, but I just love her from Sex Lives of College Girls. But but I just think that like you look at this movie. I'm trying to think of what other musicals have come out in the last few years but like it isn't getting the. I'm sorry, in the
I
last 5 years.
so
Oh.
Okay, so musicals for those of
Okay,
us that came.
Evan Hansen.
Okay.
Dear Evan Hansen came out. Maestro, which is kind of like, I mean, it's about Leonard
Eh,
Bernstein. Is
okay.
not really the same thing, but like
No.
Matilda. Again, like a lot of these, I'm not hearing a whole big hype on. The only one I've heard a decent amount of hype on is Wicked, and I don't expect this to be as big as Wicked. And what was the other one that there's another Lin Manuel Miranda movie that came. It was his first play before Hamilton got adapted by the guy who directed Wicked. But like, The Color Purple. We are
Color
seeing a
Purple.
lot of
Yeah, okay.
musicals, right? And Tick Tick Boom. isn't getting that kind of hype, but I'm hoping it's more of a slow build. It's on Netflix, so it's like easily accessible. I have seen a little bit of there is the song that he does during the fight. Oh my god, I do have something to say about the fight song, but like the I'm sorry you thought I was sorry you thought, like that very like I loved that. That scene was amazing. I've seen that song on Instagram. And people
Okay.
being like, what it's like fighting with her, and it's like, yeah, that's what the song is like
That's
literally like
what
what he
it's about,
thinks
y'all.
fighting with her is. The reason I love that, and I said it during the thing, is when he's hugging her afterwards, and he's tapping the beat to the song we just heard, and I was like, I have
You're making this
100%
into a
been in a
song.
fight before.
You're making this into a
I've one,
song.
I've 100% been in a fight with Sarah and been like, this will make a good scene in a book or a movie. Like I've had that like happen during a fight, and I thought that was amazing.
I have been in tense situations with my wife and thought, how would I have edited this differently so that it didn't go this way? Which angle does this look better at? I've done the same thing because artistic minds don't shut off. And that's a good example of that is Garfield. Garfield took on that character. Not only does he look like him to begin with, but it took on that character to the point that she noticed that was happening. Susan's like, "You're making this into a song," and it was powerful, but artistic minds
West
like you
Side
and
Story.
Oh, okay.
West Side Story came out the same year too, and also it was at the Academy Awards with this. That's what.
So
Yeah, sorry.
I really think that creative minds don't shut off is a good tagline for this film.
Yeah.
Creative minds don't shut off, but they don't wait for anybody either. So again, he lost friends. Michael talks about it, but then in the same way, he took his art as the most important thing, and he never was even when he was in that focus group, he wasn't comfortable selling out, because at first he was so excited that those people were appreciating his creativity, but then when he realized what it was,
that really reminded me of me.
But when he realized what it was, he was like, I want nothing to do with this. And then
I could be doing this for the rest of my life. I could be doing this for the rest of my life.
I
could be doing this for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that part.
What does he call the product? What does he end up calling the product?
Substitute.
Substitute. And then he's
so
like,
hard.
Michael. He's like, Michael, I'm sorry. And he's like, it's not even a little funny. Michael's like, no, I recommended you.
See, the thing that I thought was funny about that scene is that I could see making that pitch, like, because I have been at jobs where I have pitched some wild shit, but I have pitched it earnestly, and knowing that it wasn't going to get picked, but just being like, I think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
And I've gotten reactions of people being like, no, we're not doing that. But I've never been like thrown out of anything for it. Like, I've just been like, that's not the idea we're going with. Like, when my first,
Mike, but that's not what we're picking.
I had an internship at a marketing agency when I was in college, and my thing every day was I had to write 5 tweets for a Mexican restaurant every day. It was a specific Mexican restaurant, and every day at 3:00 was one of the times, and we came up with, while I was there, we came up with the idea of guac-o'clock. And so, like, it was every time it was guac o'clock, we would do a guac pun. So it would be like, guac this way, or, like Aerosmith says, guac this way on over, like to, or whatever. And I made a list of every single guac pun I could possibly come up with. And I would just pitch one every day, because I didn't have approval because I was an intern. So everything had to get approved. And so I pitched, like, and I had already 5 or 6 days in, at least, if maybe not 2 weeks of doing them before I started pitching the ones that I thought were really funny, like Rock Out with Your Guac Out. And
so these days that would go viral. Back then it was seen as uncouth. These days, Wendy's official social media accounts make things that are that colorful. Now,
so
back
when
then
he says
like,
so when he says Chubstitute, I was like, that's not even like, that's hilarious to me, but it's not that harsh. Like,
no.
And then when he was like thrown out of that meeting, I was like,
happened before. I really think that I really think that just so much of this film, and this is walking into seal of approval already. So much of this film, the way we're talking about it and like gleefully explaining it to each other, is why we watch film. It's why we take that 90-minute, 2-hour section of our lives out to watch the art of another cast of 30 people or 300 people. And then when it's written well, we can see ourselves in characters. Do we recommend it, Mike? Do we recommend?
Absolutely.
It was so funny. My smart thing, when I try to search for it, says tick, tick, boom. Like it reads it with the punctuation.
Nice.
I couldn't find
tick,
tick, boom on your list. I was like, no.
Yep.
So do we recommend it?
Absolutely. I think if you like musicals, you'll like it. If you don't like musicals, you still might, if you're not like opposed to musicals, but you're just not into them necessarily. I think it works really well. It doesn't feel, the music in it doesn't feel as forced as music can feel in some musicals.
I was going to mention that.
I think sometimes the music feels like, oh, they may have actually been singing during this scene in real life. Like there's little bits of it that only a few times do I think like, oh, this is only musical for this movie. Whereas like if that situation happened in real life, like the Bohème song at the beginning.
I was literally about to say, so Boho Days is the name of that song.
Boho Days, yeah.
And it was one of the most, in the last like 5 years, it was one of the most natural lead-ins to a music interlude, musical or not. It was 100% scoring the film, but it was also a performance in the film. And it didn't feel like West Side Story where everybody puts down everything and starts snapping and walking in line.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It didn't feel forced. It was, no, I really could see a bunch of theater geeks singing like this because I was one of the theater geeks that sang like that in the living room. Like it was,
Yeah. There is, I would argue that I actually think almost every single song works if you assume like, oh yeah, like even like the fight song, he's not singing during the fight. It's him telling the story through song in a one-man show on stage, which I think sells it to an audience. And then like to have her be like, you're writing the song as you're thinking up the song right now. And so like I think that they did it in a way that like if you're like, oh, people don't just burst into song, like if you're one of those people who doesn't like musicals because that's not realistic, people don't just burst into song, this I still think works.
This sells it. I was literally about to say I grew up in a theater household where Gilbert and Sullivan, so light opera written by two British dudes, was my entire parents' identity. They met in a theater company that performed it. And
your dad sounds like such an interesting dude.
I wish
your dad sounds like such an interesting dude.
He is, and I wish he wasn't such a dolt. But
the dolt part makes him more interesting.
It totally does. His proclivities and the fact that this is him. Oh, he absolutely
for the audience
loathes himself.
For our audience, this is what I want you to know of all the facts that I've gotten from Alex over the last couple years about his father. His father loves musicals. His
He
father
does.
is, as far as he understands, as far as Alex understands, a closeted gay man.
Yes.
He is a super duper racist, like
Yes.
outward racist,
Hmm.
not like low key. He wouldn't say, like he's not trying to hide it racist. He's a conservative, like super conservative, like just the weirdest mashup of characteristics in
It
a human
really is,
being.
dude.
And then,
It really is.
yeah,
So yes, that is my dad. That yes, I've mentioned when we do films like this because I grew up in this household. Like, if that's your idea of opera, people don't break out into song like that. That's Gilbert and Sullivan.
yeah,
This
yeah,
sells musical without selling theater nerd, geek.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
back. I will admit, before social media was a thing, theater and movies were our quotable socials, or that they were quotable
yeah,
social things. Where I grew up, all of the theater folks would just say lines from movies or plays, or casually start singing something when we're on the way being driven somewhere by our parents or something like that. So there's so many situations where this felt like my pre-adolescence, because for someone like Jonathan Larson it was. So
yeah,
it is so genuine in the way it delivers music as a medium, but it's also so genuine in the way it delivers it to, like you mentioned, people that aren't necessarily, I love musicals, or the other side, musicals are stupid. No one breaks out into song like that. Did you sing today?
right,
No. Like, yeah, but did you think of one?
yeah,
Did you think of a song in your head? Did you
yeah.
did you hear a song and then
Well,
later on rhythmically walk to it, or put your own words to the same melody, like Jonathan Larson writing a song
yeah,
about sugar
right.
while he's working at
Oh
the
yeah,
diner? Like,
that's
yeah,
that. Yeah, that is absolutely true. I mean, I don't make my own songs, but I change the lyrics to other songs all the
me
time in
too.
real life. Where
Yep.
I'll be like, they're almost always dirty lyrics, but also like you sing in the shower, like. And this
Oh
movie
yeah.
is the kind of movie where like singing in the shower isn't specifically done, but like it's all those moments where you do sing in life that are kind of depicted that way, so it works in that way.
It
What are we going
does.
to get to? Let's get to ratings.
Ratings. Oh wow.
We rated the same, so
The exact same, which we don't usually do. Oh, okay, we have
no,
before, but it's not often. I'm trying to see
right.
here. We've only done it two other times where we've been exactly
Yeah.
the same on both. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So for fun and watchability, since we've already given away the game that we rated the same, what did we rate? Fun and
Solid nine.
watchability. Nine,
Solid nine.
absolutely. I feel like it's more watchability than fun. There's a lot of fun in here, but like you also have it's not devoid of heaviness. But at no
I
point
was
does that heaviness detract from the watchability. It just isn't. I wouldn't say like the AIDS
no,
parts are fun,
it
but they
adds
are
to it.
watchable.
It adds
Right.
to it.
It makes it
So when
deeper.
you have, exactly, so when you have those
Hmm.
bumps of tension, they are
Yeah.
that tension that builds up is released when you see Michael show up to his read, or when you see
Yep.
Susan show up to when they're celebrating at the diner. Like it takes time to make those moments that are heavy, but then gives you the release after that. You're like, oh, well, that's actually kind of nice. Oh, I just made that
Yeah.
sexual. Good point. I okay. Like, it's still in my head. I'm
All
kind
right.
of
And
thinking about
then
it.
okay, and now in quality, we gave it.
Quality 8. Here's
Yeah.
why it's not a 9. The little green screen stuff. For me, the yes, I know Susan's arc had to be what it is, and yes, it is literally in a 1 week period in a 90-minute film. But there are, or 2 hours. But there are so many times where, because we're on a scale of 10, is an 80 really that bad? No, I graduated on 80s. Like
Yeah.
it it totally hit the quality beats of what I expect. But what I enjoyed is it didn't feel like Disney was performing Miranda Fellatio like they sometimes do. It was,
What's Miranda Fellatio?
Miranda Fellatio is when Disney sucks on the shaft and balls of Lin-Manuel Miranda because he is their new
Miranda. Okay.
because he is their new like child of genius, you know.
I just pictured a character
what is
porn
Miranda
actress.
Fellatio?
My name is Miranda Fellatio.
Miranda Fellatio. It's like
I
Debbie
don't
does
know why I'm
Dallas.
doing a Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, why is Hannibal Lecter all of a sudden a woman in a porno? So yeah, it's an 8 because it could have been one more, but being made during COVID is, I was going to give it a 7, but being made during COVID is why it moved up to an 8. I understand some of the challenges they had, and I can respect and understand what that brings to a little bit more of a rough production. So that's why I moved it up to an 8, because I'm like, well, shit, with what you had, you did pretty freaking good, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like if you made that little story beat that was like not perfect for me, and you made the green screen, I actually think you could go to a 10 for those two things.
No,
but
no,
I was like,
I agree with that.
Yeah. Like this is so close to being my number one movie that we've done so far now, because
it was like, for me too.
Like,
and it's a musical.
Like,
think about that, and it's a musical.
Yeah.
Two film dudes and a filmmaker goes, musical, top movie in the last 15 that we've watched. You know?
Yeah. All right.
What are we doing? What are we doing in January?
We want to first of all, we want to thank you for joining us for all of 2025. But as we go into 2026, we have the whole month of January planned out with Italian language movies. So when I say that, because we wanted to do Italian, and then there was a bunch that kept coming up that was like, well, that's English, but it's an Italian director, or so these are actually Italian language movies. We're gonna test out my Duolingo skills. We're starting off the month with Umberto D. Then we're gonna do The Conformist.
I'm excited.
Parthenope, which is in the last 2 years, and then A Special Day. Mm-hmm. Is January a 5-week? Oh, so we should come up with a 5th one. If you have a suggestion, throw it in the comments. But what I was going to say is, following January we're going into Black History Month. If you have good suggestions for Black History movies, now when I would prefer movies by Black filmmakers to movies about Black stories by white people. Like
100% agree.
Like I don't want to see Steven Spielberg's The Color Purple. I liked that movie, but like that's not the kind of thing I really want to focus on for Black History Month. I would rather focus on, Spike Lee or Sidney Poitier directed some stuff, right? Like a Jordan Peele, people. I want to actually Black voices in the directorial spots, and hopefully,
like if you have to put Precious on there because it was Lee Daniels, there's a good example. It is a movie about
I'm not watching
Black
Precious
people.
Again.
No, I know. It's a movie about Black people and about Black Americans, but it's also directed by a Black director. So, I mean, if you really want to throw Precious on there just to make Mike like super uncomfortable, you should do it. Because it's not a bad
I've watched
film.
Precious.
Right.
No, it's not a bad film, but it's one of the 2 movies that I use as an example of movies that you absolutely should see, and then you should never watch again.
Yeah,
because
one is
it's
good.
It's one and done. Yep. So yeah, if you have ideas that you would like to see us do for Black History Month, let us know. We don't have March planned, but we have January scheduled out, and we have February in the works. And
we have an idea what we're doing in February. We do.
Yep. So
we would like you to come along because Italian's going to be cool. 2 Italians doing Italian films. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and don't worry. our podcast will remain mostly English during that, other than like the occasional molto bene, mangia, basta. At the end of the month, we'll after 5 movies, after 5 weeks of Italian language movies, we might be like basta.
Basta.
Yeah. So those are the 4 that we're starting it off. I didn't realize it was a 5-week month, so we'll add another one. So, all right. Thank you again for joining us. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. If you're looking to get episodes early, our 26 list will be. We do. I will link to that below, so that if you want to get them, like you're going to get some episodes 2 weeks early because of like this week, this episode. If you're obviously already watched it, so it's tough. But like. This is 2 weeks early for anybody that paid for that pass. So
that's true. Yeah.
And
it helps us keep making
this
these,
one,
and we've enjoyed it.
Right. All right. So I hope you have a great New Year's, because this is coming out a couple days before New Year's. And we will see you in January.
See you in January.